Hello, people. Hello. So, for those who don't know me, I'm Michelle Lloyd. I'm founder of United Art Space. And for those who don't know Nicholas Wilton, Nicholas is artist of 25 years and founder of Art to Life. Now, many of you will probably do know who Nicholas Wilton is by now because I've been talking about him a lot over the last 2 weeks, and I'm sure that you've been taking part in the workshops as well. If you haven't, there is still time to take part. We'll quickly recap in a minute what workshops we've all been working through together. It has been a phenomenal couple of weeks, hasn't it? How are you feeling? Because I've got to say, first of all, I run workshops as well, and I know how much you pour in and what goes on behind the scenes and what your team do. So first of all, thank you for sharing everything that you do with everybody, because I know how tough it is.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I was just, and that's why I was late. I got so engrossed in, today I'm doing a whole bunch of looking at a lot of people's work, and I'm doing these image adjustments. So the free workshop is sort of like last week, but then it kind of continues in a way because just the way I talk about programs is I just teach. And, I know that a lot of people, most people can't do the program, but they'll come back maybe a year from now or 2 years, providing they make progress. But I'm looking at these images, and it's so cool to see people that have just been, in the free workshop, learning a new vocabulary, getting a greater awareness. And it's like, it's just so cool. And it's like, there's so many images I want to adjust. And it's like, yes, the people are saying, I think I might want to add this in the upper corner. Anyway, yes, it's a lot of work, but it really fired. I just love teaching. I love seeing people get it, and we're just seeing that in everyone's work. And so yeah, it's really, really fun. I love it. I just love teaching, showing people this stuff.
It comes across. Anyone who's been taking part, I'd love to know, what has been your one takeaway? I've shared that on social media today. What has been your one takeaway from the workshops that you want to carry forward from your art today? I think it's such a good one to reflect on, because there is a lot to take in. And for me, I think what I've taken, because it's my third time going through your workshops now, I think for me it's been about the differences again. It's something that I've known, but just going back through this, I can't tell you how much I get time and time again. And for me, the differences and the power of differences, and not just only in my own artwork, but I've started to, I'm writing, and I'm writing a book, and I'm noticing that chapter lengths and differences in chapter lengths has such an impact on the flow of a reader. And the differences in our social media posts, people are scrolling all day long and they're looking for differences. I was like,
Yes, right.
this week, you've totally blown my mind with just going through these workshops again, how I need to invigorate more differences, not just in my art, but different in different ways. So it's been really
Yeah, no,
amazing.
absolutely. And it's so true in writing. When you read an amazing writer, and I notice this a lot, and it's something I'm trying to do in my writing, the way they end a sentence, because that's kind of important. The last thing you kind of get out of the sentence is sort of like, you're going to compare that feeling to the next sentence. And there's certain words you can end with. I mean, you know how they say, don't end with a preposition, because it's kind of, it's not enough. You don't get a good feeling. So I really notice it in writing too, because I'm doing a lot of that, and it's just the same thing. And when you see and read an amazing writer, it is doing that to you. You're just riding those emotions. But this idea of differences, it's forever. And we just get better at, customizing it, and we get better at using these tools. So absolutely. Yeah. You're creating an art life, that's what's going on here. It's not, that awareness affects your life, and that's what makes you better at making the art. It's not that this is our program's a class on how to make a better painting. Yes, kind of, but it's connected to something much bigger. And that's what's so exciting.
Yeah, it really is. Preeti's joined, yes.
Oh, that's so great. That's so great.
And there's been lots and lots of comments here. Yeah, so Rachel says, yeah, the workshops have been absolutely fabulous. Thank you so much. So yeah, so we're going to do the reviews. Have you got those, Nicholas? The reviews that we're going to be doing today.
Let me grab them.
Well, whilst you're getting set up that end, I'm going to read some more comments out. So yes, the design, the differences, the way we can mix colors, it's mind blowing, isn't it? Chris took away simplicity can aid complexity.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Totally.
Yeah. Rebecca says my one takeaway is that people love to feel alive and that I have the power to do that through my art. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, it's been mind-blowing for me as well. I'm going to be doing the course too, the CVP course. I can't wait. Yeah,
great.
and is
Fantastic.
it possible to take? Yeah, I can't wait. So guys, I don't, as you know, those who follow me know, I don't have much time. I'll be doing it on Fridays. Fridays is my art day. So that's where I'm going to be using CVP to get back into all of this again. And I just think there was a lot of people saying at the beginning of the week that I feel like I know this stuff already. But one thing I will say is from working with Sharon, here we go, name drop. I always have to mention my friend Sharon because we are like one person. But Sharon and I will often sit in her studio and we always talk about how going back to the basics is important and how sometimes we feel like we've got to keep learning more and more and more and more and more and more. But actually the fundamentals, and this is what you teach, going back to those basics. And we'll sit in her pottery and we'll just go back to that conversation that art is having. And I remember when she does sculpture and she had this piece that she wasn't finished. She was still work in progress. And she just laid some fabric over the top of the head and it totally transformed the whole look of the sculpture. And again, it was just playing around with those elements and the differences. And I think allowing that time to play, and some people do this intuitively, but having the time to really sit back and carve out that time to really be conscious about what you're doing and playing with, okay, if I make this bigger and now I make it smaller, what is happening? How is the conversation changing? That's the kind of skill that you're learning here, which it's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, on my access to the doc, I just need I don't have permission in it.
Okay, so you're waiting for
Yeah, it hasn't come yet. So is there a way you can share it with me?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, let me just
Or even in this, yeah.
Okay, 1 second. Let me just grab.
While you're doing that, I'll just I'll talk about, you know, one of the things that I see that that is so helpful for people in this free workshop is this idea of value, the lightness and darkness. And I've been looking at images all morning, and this is the key kind of a really great way when you're looking at your work and you're trying to problem solve it, to look at your picture, and based on what we shared about, you know, the eye goes to where the greatest contrast is in your work, to just ask yourself, where is my eye going? And if you do that, that sort of opens the door to how to improve things. Because if your eye goes to one place only, and mostly one place, then you're kind of just experiencing one little part. You know, it's like someone yelling in the room. You want to experience your art and be able to look around at a few places, to move the eye around a few places. And many times, and that's most of the, you know, like when I do, when I work on people's work, I'm sort of, that's what I start with. And that's a really great kind of tip on how to, you know, enter the conversation. You might not even like the color, or you might think it's a color issue, but it has more to do with the lightness and darkness, those patterns.
Yeah, in the chat now on our screen, Nick, if you go to the comments, I've put the link in there and it should be able to.
Okay. Oh, good.
The access now. Yeah.
Okay, great.
There should be 5 artworks in there. And big thank you. Yeah, we've got 5 artworks and 5 lovely people that took part and helped spread the word with Nick's workshop. So thank you for everyone being really supportive of what Nick's doing. Really do appreciate it.
Yeah, really, totally. So yeah, Okay, so we're gonna have just a look at these, correct? And I can, all right, so let's have a look. So can I share my screen kind of thing? Is
Yeah,
that,
at the bottom, can you see there's a button that
yes,
says share?
yes.
And if you press that now, then it will go into full screen.
Okay. Share screen. Okay.
Then you might just need to select the window that you want to share. There we go. I can see it now.
Okay, so you're seeing my whole screen?
Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
Okay, great. All right, so let me just open one of these images that I just okay. Okay, so can you see this okay and everything?
Yep. Yep.
Okay, so okay, I'm going to duplicate this later. Okay, so here, so Sanibel, really cool. Now, based on what I was just saying about this idea of where your eye goes, right? So where our eye goes to where the greatest contrast is, and maybe so, which is where the lightest light and the darkest dark meet, which is right here. You can see our eye goes here, our eye goes here. A little bit up here and over here, but we're mostly going over here. And this picture is working pretty well because you have contrast in all these areas, in lots of areas. So, but in order to bring our eye to other places, we're competing with this contrast here. So, for example, watch what happens when I take, let's say, if I want to bring, let me just lighten this area. I'll show you what I'm talking about here. So if I have this here, and watch how when I bring up make this lighter here, you'll see how, do you notice how our eye goes over there now? And I'll darken this down a little bit here. I'm going to darken this area right along this light area here. And this is going to make our eye look up here. So I'm not really changing that much, but watch what happens. Do you see now our eye is going up there. So now we're going here and we're going here. And watch, I can come down here and I can lighten this area down here. So I'll take this down here. I'm going to lighten this area and create contrast down here as well. And I'm just taking areas, lightening that, and I'm going to darken this down here to bring in a little bit more contrast. You see what's happening with the picture? How our eyes moving, or see how it activates it? So now we're looking here on the other side. Now, another great question to ask yourself is how, what do we have a lot of? If we're looking, what do we have a lot of? And maybe we can change some things to provide some contrast or some differences to that. So if I look at the color, for example, we have a lot of really saturated colors, right? We got this bright yellow, this bright orange, this bright blue, this bright green. Everything's really quite saturated. So if I take, so we have to decide, which kind of part of this we want to, we sort of love in terms of saturation. But if I take the sky, for example, this sort of royal blue, the creatures, the animals are quite saturated. So I'm going to just take some of the saturation out of the sky, and it's going to make the animals look, watch, I'll show you. So I'm going to try this. And that's the thing, this is how you sort of figure it out. I'm going to take some of the saturation. Notice as the saturation goes down, I'm going to darken this a little bit. Notice how the richness of the animal, of the bear or the rabbit or whatever this, notice how that color looks. Do you see how it looks more yellow as opposed to before? It's getting a little bit more sophisticated. The color, that night sky is making those creatures more exciting to look at. So we're starting to like decide what it is we
Look at
want
the
the viewer
difference.
to
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Does. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Right, super
incredible to see
interesting,
this.
right? And even the land here, even this land here, which is different than the animals, we can we can we can adjust that as well. I'm gonna um, I'm just sort of doing this really quick, but I'm gonna change that as well because that's really I'm gonna make that a little darker, perhaps. And by doing that, take some of that like bright green out of it. Um, and we start to get kind of a little bit more drama out of this.
Mm. Yeah.
And even here, if we, I'll take a little bit of this, like bringing these lights, get this strong. And this is crude, but you'll see how, like, look what that does. Like now we're looking there and we're looking down here. And I want our eyes to go down here and see this, these lights right along here. I'll try to get this guy to show up a little bit more. I can darken just around here. And I'm doing this really quickly, you can see, but so we see that. So now we're controlling where your eye goes. We go to this bear here,
No,
we're
yeah, look
going
at the contrast now around the paler part really pops, doesn't it? Just something so simple like that. Yeah.
And so check this out. Like, so this is very noticeable, this rabbit's face, and I'm going to actually make it a little less noticeable. So it's not, watch how it gets a little darker. You see how it's like, now, like this is like crazy, right? That's all we see. Look at what value contrast does. We can't take our eyes off this thing, but we had it about here, but I'm gonna get it, lower it down just so our eye can move around this picture. So not everything is so noticeable. I'm gonna take a little bit of the saturation and the lightness out of this. So I'm adjusting it, right? And I can come in and I want our eye to go down here, behind here, right? So I can lighten up this part of the sky a little bit. And you'll see your eye will look down there at the land, bringing that up a little bit. Do you get it? So we want to go to all these places. We want to go to the bottom. We want to go to the top. See how we're controlling the picture a little bit.
Mhm. If
Okay.
anyone has questions, please do ask
Yeah, totally.
along.
And these principles, these ideas are to get you closer, right? Like to know how to take something and how to start changing it. Let's look at another one here, because I got another one before. Okay, I think it was this one. Okay, all right. So this one is looking pretty cool. Notice that our eye goes to lots of places. This has, there's contrast here, there's contrast here, there's contrast here, there's contrast here, a little bit up here, a little bit up here. So our eye is definitely kind of moving around here, which is really, really great. And so we have to kind of look, well, where do we want the viewer's eye to go? If we're looking at this, my eye is really going into this central area here. This is where the biggest contrast is, and right here and right here, and not so much up here. Do you see that? Like definitely all in here. This is where we're looking, staying in here. We want to go up here, and there's these contrasts up here, but we definitely want to look here more. So how do we get the eye to go over here? So we can darken this hair a little bit. So watch, we can darken this hair a little bit. I'm just trying to do this crudely. Let me double this. Hold on one second. Control, duplicate layer. Okay. It's a little hard to select all this. Okay, so This will be kind of crude because I'm doing it fast, but watch as the hair becomes darker and your eye will notice it. Like if we don't want him to be noticed, like this is worse. Notice that we're not going there at all. We want to look here. I'm going to go a little darker. See what that's doing to the picture? Now our eye's going there. Now we're not noticing it as much. That's kind of where it was. But if we go a little darker, our eye is looking there. We're competing with this over here. So I can darken the hair or I can lighten this area a little bit. So check this out. This is also by lightening this in comparison, it's going to make us notice that. See what it does to the picture? It's crazy. It's just like a little bit.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so let's get this, let's get our eye up here, okay? And there's lots of ways. So it's just value contrast that we need to have. So let's say, let's make this thing and dark here, just to make it quick and simple. And I'll show you, if this is dark up here, it's going to make this sky look lighter. It's a really fast way to sort of do it. So right now we're not really noticing, but I'm going to draw your attention. Now that's the same value as the sky. That's not doing a lot. But as it gets darker, notice now, look at the picture. Look at what it's doing. It's changing it. We're looking up here now. And that's better because we're no longer stuck here. We have lots of, we can like go up there. And this sky, this sky can get, we can lighten that a little. We don't really need to because it's already working, but now we're kind of, so we're now looking up there. Now notice this down here, this area down here, bringing some attention down here, some contrast, and there's little bits of contrast down here. Let me get this. I'm just going to bring a little bit, it's like a reflection in the water or whatever. These things are there. You just have to adjust them. See how that just starts to activate that area a little bit? And then up here, what was that?
There's a question here.
Yes.
Would you say that the aim is to get the viewer to look everywhere or to use this value contrast to get people to focus on certain areas? Great question.
Well, yes. What I'm doing is we want to give people a visual tour of the picture, right? Like here, here before, we're mostly, our eye goes where there's contrast. So right now we're just staring at this midpoint, but we want them to look up here. And this picture is working quite well. We are noticing things, but in relationship to whatever the contrast is. So for example, if I did this, if I made this shape, this dark shape, let's say I made this bigger, and okay. This would be, you would know that if I put a dark shape right here that's really contrasty, you are going to stare at that all day long, right? Like this is not what the picture is doing, but a little bit. That's pretty strong. That dark right in the middle of the picture, this dark next to this white shirt, light shirt, and this white, we're really noticing it. This is an exaggeration of that. But we don't want people to just stay here. We want them to go look at other places and move around the art. So we all can see that this is wrong, but sometimes it's hard to see, so that's what it is. It's not that, we have a focus point. It's probably him or, this up here or even this, but we don't want to get stuck there. We want to go here. We want to move around. So yes, it's a focus, it's like a play. If this is the main character in the play, but there's also all this other supporting things going on that our eye can go and look at. Does that answer the question kind of, do you think?
Yeah, definitely. Let us know if not, Rebecca. And then there was a great question that's come in from Kaylee saying, I find it hard to guide the eye through the work of black and white. So I think we've got a piece. We'll come to it in a minute, Kaylee, and get to that. So
what was the question? I didn't quite catch that. What was that?
Kaylee was saying what about works that are mostly black and white, like charcoal work? Because I really struggle to, let me just find the exact
To
word.
see it. We're gonna, is that like Sonia's work is that way? We can look at that.
Yeah, I find it hard to guide the eye through the work with just charcoal.
Oh no. Okay, great. Well, let's look at some of these. Let's just continue because I think there was a black and white one.
Yeah, yeah.
And notice, you guys, that I'm doing the same thing. So what I'm talking about are principles here. They're not it's not really related to it's not related to the kind of work. So here's a picture, beautiful, like looking really great. It's and it might be that the pictures, it's kind of a dark, moody picture. But let me just lighten it up so we can see it. The values are all in relationship. So let me just lighten this up a little bit. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to just hold on one second. Okay. All right, let's lighten this up a little bit. Okay, that'll just make it easier to see. It's still, you can still kind of see it. Okay. All right, so where does your eye go here? Okay, and this picture, it's beautiful, like color, everything's working great. And it's quite strong, but our eye is going here. Do you see that? That's where the contrast is, here and here. So we're looking here, but we also want to go into a few other places, right? And there's a little bit of contrast here, but like we can watch how bringing up a little bit of contrast in a few of these areas here. Just I'll just try and, it's a little tricky because I have to select, like this, if this water or just had a little bit more contrast here. I'm going to draw your eye over there. See that? Like we're going over there a little bit. There's this great little mark here, up here. Let me just take, even like something like this, like, a patch of light coming through these trees. This is what happens. And you're seeing it here a little bit. If we had just a mark here, that pulls your eye over there. That's starting, so now we're looking there, we're looking here, we're, bringing up, just moving us down. Primarily, we're looking here, and this is working quite well, but we're just making some adjustments here to bring our eye around a little bit more.
There's a question coming saying from Thadian. Hello, Thadian. So how does Nick suggest handling areas where we might want space, stillness, and apparent emptiness? An extreme example might be the work of Mark Rothko, in which the apparent void can perhaps speak of eternity or affinity.
How to, can you say that again?
Yeah. So it's what happens if the space and stillness is needed in a work, or the emptiness.
Okay, let me just show you. So do you see what just this like slight adjustments, it activates the picture. We're not just staying here. We want to go here. And so we're just adjusting those differences to activate it. And so that's what it is, where you don't want to stay in one place. Now this painting's working really, really well. But those are, so the adjustments are not huge, but this is what, this is where you can start activating it and getting it, looking to those areas that are not activated and adjusting them a little bit more, pushing the contrast a bit more, darkening down in here. See how our eye goes over there now. So if you can just see the difference. It's like it's an overall, it just activates the picture. Okay, so regarding the question, I think that about emptiness, I want to open another one because it relates to this.
Yeah.
Let's see, was it this one? The black and white one. Okay. All right. Whoops. Okay. Okay, so openness is the opposite of busyness. And we want that in the work. We want areas of quietness and spaciousness. And this picture is looking really exciting and is looking really cool. But if we look in, we can see how nice this area is up here because it's a little more open than these other areas down here. It's a little tighter. And so this is an example of like having a little bit more space in the work. It's nice to have that relief. Notice the value contrast. Our eye is going here, but it's going here. It's everywhere. We're going everywhere, moving all the way around in this work. And so that's kind of exciting to look at where we're looking, where we're moving, but you need to have space, space. Let me show you an example that relates. Okay, let me just show you this. Let's see. Okay. Here's a picture. Let me get this a little bigger. This is something I was just working on a few minutes ago. This is a person's art. Now, there's all kinds of things going on in this, and and there's value contrast, and there's colors, and it's all crammed together. And there's a lot here. There's a lot to look at. There's lots of color. There's lots of stripes. There's lots of texture, and everything's here. But because there's no relief, we're almost overwhelmed. It's like I this is highly saturated pink, and then there's another inch of another color, and then there's another highly saturated orange, and then there's these stripes, and then there's this and this. Do you see how it's like chock full? So here is a way to show some of the amazing things in here, but by showing their opposites, by showing the differences, we can have a break, right? Like I've chosen some of the things in this picture, the amazing color, the beautiful typography, and by creating its opposite, by having space, we can appreciate the typography now. We can fall in love with the color because we have this more muted area. We can fall in love with the boldness, the black and white of something next to something that's more muted and subtle. We need to have subtlety with the boldness. We need to have muted colors with saturated colors. We need to have open space next to crowded areas. We need to have really wide things next to more narrow things. So this is where we begin, but we almost do too much. Do you get it? We almost have too much. There's so much here. We need you to come in and tell us and decide what it is you want us to see. Is it the color? Is it and simplify it down so we can see things better by showing their opposites. And that's kind of what we're after. So when we look at this picture, this is working really beautifully, but we could have some areas, it's very, very bold, for example, like it's all highly black and white. And I'm really liking these subtle gray areas here, these more subtle areas of gray, but I'm going to make them more subtle. I'm going to quiet this down, and it's going to give us a little bit more because they're going to be not as value contrasty. And I got to just do this kind of crudely. It's going to be a little more subtle. And this will give us a feeling of that open space. Watch as this gets less noticeable. It's more subtle. Do you see that? And now there's more feeling. It's still there, but we have the bold, eyebrow, but we've got this subtle area. And I can even take some of these areas here, and we're going to go and make it a little less contrasty to complement. See how like that's starting to create open space. Look down here. Look at how that shadowing area is so dark. It's almost like a solid. So I can come in and quiet that down a little bit. And it's going to create that spaciousness that, that relates to the question. What value contrast and less value contrast is how you create calm. Look, I'm going to quiet it down. It's like, oh, thank you. Right? We have the boldness now. We have the boldness of the eye, and we have subtlety. Look at how thin that line is. Look at how delicate that is. Look at the subtle pattern on the paper. Look down here. We can take this and we can make this more subtle. So this is a game here. The design of this, by the way, is really beautiful, but by bringing in subtlety, it starts to get more sophisticated and really beautiful and create some open space. And letting your eye move around. It's literally like a boat or something going around these islands. Like, look at how our eye can move along and go around here. Notice that we're getting a little caught in here. So I can open this up by opening this area up a little bit. If this kind of went away, it's going to allow our eye to kind of move into this picture. See how we're opening it up a little bit? We can kind of come through. We can move through. There's a way through this picture here. If I come in and opening it up, it's literally like feng shui in a room, opening it up so I can move through. But it's really cool. This is really beautiful and really great. But using these principles, this is how you can start to kind of adjust things and make things so they're more optimized.
Yeah, you can see that now, that the guiding of the eye just flowing through that space now.
Yeah, totally.
Before it kind of stopped. Yeah.
No, it's, and often, there's beautiful, like, I'll just crop this a little bit. I'll show you like it's powerful when you like look at even this. So I'm recomposing a picture here of differences, things that are different, to move your eye around. And like, notice, our eye sees different things and our eye moves around this picture. I can change the design of this. I can take this shape here and make this a little bigger. Because see how this shape is about the same size as everything else? If this kind of comes across, this can kind of come bigger. Look at what's happening to the design. So we have this bigger area here, right? And we can have, a small, notice how cool a little small mark looks here, because that hasn't appeared yet. Now this is just design, but we're starting to like compose these things based on what's here, looking at what's here, moving our eye around. Probably this is so nice to have like an area that we're going to go up in here and look, some contrast up here, some small thing that we can see up there. Maybe there's a pattern of things here, a small elements to activate this. Our eye goes to where the contrast is. So I'm activating that area up there.
I just want to add as well that if you're watching this and it's all brand new to you, you might be struggling to see some of these principles. And I just want to say that the more you learn it, and this is what will be covered in CVP, you will start to see it in your own work. It's like a muscle, isn't it? And it's a language that you're learning. And the more you learn that language and the more you practice this, you will start to see it in your own work more easily. You'll see it in other people's work. When you go to galleries, you'll be like, oh, you'll understand how you're reading an artwork as well, which I think this is why it's powerful. It'll give you so much more confidence understanding all of this.
Yeah, and it's just right, exactly. So let's look at this one. Really cool, really fun. And all of these have there's so much great stuff going on. And that's what's so amazing is, look at the imagination here. But what we want to do is we want to create, a picture that really showcases what it is you're showing the world, right? We want to get good at, what it is, the one or two things that you want us to see. So first of all, we're going to look at where the eye goes. Now let's look at this picture in terms of in black and white. Okay, so I'm going to take the color away, and you can see here that you can see here that when the color goes away, do you notice how it's all similar in value? There's a lot of mid value. And again, our eye goes to where there's contrast. And it's hard to see, because there's all this gray color and we're just like, oh my God, we love it. But if we look at this, where is our eye going right now? So our eye is going here. You can see it. That's where the biggest contrast here, a little bit here. And we're not really, believe it or not, we're kind of looking generally, we're not really being directed in too many places else, but comparing this to this to this is what we're looking at. Notice how the sizes of these two areas are kind of similar. This sort of like, tangerine size shape and this size shape. So right away, I would change this shape up here. And I think I'll just kind of keep working on this in black and white. I'm going to make this bigger here. So it has a little bit more drama. I'm going to bring up the lightness here. I'm just going to work in this in black and white. So I think to show you, so now we've got this bigger light area up here. I'm going to take this, select this area. All I'm doing is creating, I'm not changing any of the cool drawings or any of that. I'm just creating patterns of light and dark that are exciting to look at. So that's value, contrast, and differences. So now we've got this going up here. And now maybe I'll take this background. This is going to be a shape down here. This is all going to be a shape. And I'm going to take this area. And I'm going to lighten this down here. And it's this whole area. Do you see how all of a sudden, like now we're cooking here because we've got this huge light shape. We notice these things here. We notice value contrast. That we got to go over here, you guys. We got to look over here. So, that's the next order of the day. What can we bring up here to activate this area? So maybe it's, maybe it's this area here. We can lighten this area.
It really is exciting because now you've done that, you really do see all the detail and the mark making and the shapes and so much beauty in that is lost or could be lost.
Yeah, because you guys, this is the loud conversation. And I know for those of you who, weren't able to see the free workshop, the loud conversation is what you see from a distance. This has to be exciting, you guys. That view has to be, I'm going to increase the value contrast a little bit so you can see it. Has to be interesting. Do you see how kind of exciting that postage stamp is? Like it's like, whoa, what's going on? The reason this is exciting to look at is because what we're looking at, there's differences here. Now, if we look at this, it's harder to tell what's going on because the values are blurring together. It's just sort of looks like a, colored chip. It's not the colors, it's the values that create the interest, the values of the color. So we haven't even, all the cool inventive stuff is so great, but we can just kind of see it better. Now I can get your eye to look over here. This is kind of wonderful. So let's increase the value contrast of that. Let's get this to be a little lighter. Boom, now we're looking up there. We can make this center point. We can darken this a little bit. And that'll kind of increase the drama of this a bit. See how that's getting really exciting, starting to really work. I love these little tiny squares here. Let's get the values of some of these, bring up some of that contrast.
It's really interesting to watch because there's all these marks that are just suddenly coming forward. So I hadn't seen.
And look right here, what a perfect spot to have a size of something that we don't have. Like, watch as this, if I put something like this is a mid value there, but if I bring in, I can just activate it. Hey, don't forget about this. Look here, or look here. Do you see that? Like, that activates that area. I can get us to look right here with the smallest little bit of contrast. And I'm going to get, this is like the seasoning on a food dish, it's like that. Look what that does. It activates it, and it gives us a way to, we first see this picture, then we can enjoy all that detail. Now, the quiet conversation is areas that are kind of subtle, and I'll just go into this a little bit more. So right here, for example, this is all very light, this triangle over here, but if we adjust things a bit more to bring in some subtlety, let's see if I can do this. Like this area here, I can, instead of this just being a white triangle, that this area can have, it can be almost white, and you'll see it'll bring a little bit, see how that just adds a little bit of, it's still light, but it activates it, it brings subtlety in it. We're seeing some subtlety in some of these areas, like, down here, and here, and we can adjust those. So they're not black, right? We don't want that, but we want them to be, and then we don't want them to be like mid value. We want them to be just almost light, because it adds a richness to the picture. It adds a subtlety to the picture. So choosing what is subtle and what is bold and combining those makes the picture more kind of dynamic. Now, in terms of color, we have a lot of really, really saturated color. Everything, it's bright turquoise, bright orange, and that's a lot of the same kind of thing. And we kind of did this before. Watch as I take some of this color. If I take this, I'll take some of this turquoise color, and I will, even some of this, I'll take some of this blue color, the really saturated color here, and I will take some of that saturation out. Oh, hold on. Okay, hold on, I messed up. Okay, so this saturation, really saturated here. And I'm going to take this as well. That's really saturated. This is really saturated. I'm going to take some of this red up here, and I'll take some of this here. And oh, I see. I'm on the wrong thing. Okay, so watch as the saturation goes away in some of these areas. Look what's happening to the rest of the picture, the other areas. Look at how saturated they are. Look at how rich the orange looks now, and some of those other colors, bringing in some colors that are not as saturated, right? Like, this isn't making the other colors, this doesn't make the other colors look particularly saturated, because they're all saturated. So taking areas and reducing down that saturation a little bit will activate those areas. Look at how beautiful that orange looks. If this green, or if this, choosing, so we go from a saturated color to not such a saturated color to a saturated, unsaturated, we want to mix that up. let me see if I can get this red color here, because this is really beautiful. You have this gorgeous saturated orange here. And I'm going to take this area and make this even more unsaturated. And it's going to make that orange look better. I'm going to take some of that saturation out, and I'm going to darken it down a little. Do you see how we're optimizing the color now? So it's not just about, this is the most important thing, this kind of, getting the values working. And then it's really understanding color to create the differences of color. But this is the most important thing to learn. This is the most visually, this will, as we know, this without this picture is we can't really get our head around it. It's the color doesn't really matter. This is what we really need to focus on: the lightness and darkness, and the relative sizes, the design and the value. These are much more powerful principles than color. But again, color is important. To enhance the color, we need to show differences.
Super. Oh, so many people saying this has been fascinating. Thank you so much. Rebecca says, yeah, what I like is that it is, so it's little tweaks and areas that need it that can make drastic change.
Right.
Yeah.
That, Rebecca, you're absolutely right. You got it all. They're so close. It's just learning we're trying to make the work to go from good to like really great. If you can get this information, this is what optimizes the work. You just dial it in,
Yeah. Super. So CVP is open for enrollment right now. So that's Nicholas's program. When does it start? So enrollment closes on Wednesday. Is that right?
So enrollment closes this Wednesday, a couple more days, on Wednesday at 11:59 p.m. and we're starting Thursday. So yeah.
Yay, I can't wait. So let me know in the chat if you are thinking of joining. If you've got any questions, let us know before we wrap up now. Christine says, I love listening and absorbing all the information. Nick explains it so well. Thank you. Yes, absolutely. It's been incredible, hasn't it? I've absolutely loved taking part in these workshops. I'm excited to take part in the course. I can't wait.
Oh, this is going to be really great, Michelle, because you'll really, the thing about this is it's whether you're beginning or whether you're intermediate or whether you're far along, if you can really develop this and you just improve with lifelong learning.
Yeah, and like we said at the beginning, it impacts everything. It's impacting my writing, it's impacting now I'm just seeing this in terms of my social media posting and things like that. It literally trickles into everything, which is
it's really
powerful.
It's really interesting. And I was thinking about it, in terms of the free Art to Life workshop and everyone who's here right now and what we've been learning and what do we need right now in our lives? I mean, we are coming kind of out of COVID and because what we need in our life is a difference. And so this is just my thinking. I was thinking about it the other day, like, no one wants to go back we've all come through this huge experience and hard stuff. And a lot of people stopped going to work and they're working at home, which is really cool. But no one really feels like going back to the way it was, it feels like we've just come through this thing. So we've got to go forward in a new way, in a different way. The bar has been raised. I feel this is just how it feels for me. And that chapter, what does the new chapter look like? And I think this is what people are wanting. And I think this is why people are so interested in creativity and making art. It's like they want to up-level their life. They want to create a life that's more impacting for themselves and those more meaningful. I don't know. That's a difference, right? Because we've had a life that's just been kind of like stayed the same. And, we've been shut in and we haven't been able to connect with each other. And so I think this is why there's a need to investigate this content right now. I mean, that's just my theory, but that is a life difference, right? It's this thing thing. Our environment, So anyway, that's just sort of the bigger idea. But I love sharing this information, and I love the fact that you're sharing this and that you're so involved in it, and how you're showing up for your audience
Yeah.
and sort of translating this. It's really great.
No, it's been super fun. There's a question or a kind of statement more so, but I just want to bring it before we wrap up. So I work in watercolors, which makes it more difficult to change lighter if needed. I guess this is what you cover in the program, isn't it? It's how people can use all these different materials to
Yeah,
create these principles that you're teaching, because there are
yeah.
ways around it, no matter what medium you use. And there's different, you can create differences in other ways as well with shapes and
Yeah, and I think that what she's getting at with the question is watercolor. You need to retain the whiteness of the page, and sort of once you've gone too far with it, you can't move things around. I
yeah.
completely understand. We have a lot of watercolor artists that come in, but playing around with a thumbnail or just with a black Sharpie pen on a piece of paper and adjusting and figuring out those shapes, problem solving.
Mm,
It's more the thinking. Watercolor is a little less forgiving, but you can learn this by doing small watercolor comps. Like, does that dark area look better in the middle, or does it look better off to the side with a smaller piece? Moving things around. That's how you kind of do it. So do like little comps, do like little pencil things in your sketchbook. I mean, a lot of people in the free workshop, that's what they were doing. They were just adjusting things.
yeah, yeah. Awesome. I can't wait to get started. Yay.
All right.
So anyone who's interested, there is a link above. You can see it up there. So just press it. You can find out all the information and you can take part. If you've got any questions, please do let us know in the comments below and we will get back to you. And lots of thanks. Thank you so much. We know that you are incredibly busy right now, so we feel very honored that you are
Oh,
here.
I love it. I love talking about it. I love sharing this with you guys. And yeah, so, and Chantel, I think we did hit all the 5 artists already. I think we went through them. Okay.
Yes. Thank you. Take care.
All right, you
Thanks,
guys.
everyone. Bye.
Okay,
Bye.
bye.